And I'm going to use this as my illustration. This other wiki, the TiddlyWiki's analogical structure, is an illustration, by the way, since I can't, help but to give you some idea. Analogical structure? Really? Anybody, any guesses, even what that might mean? So here's the definition. This is one of my annotations. And I didn't even use this in my presentation, but this is the kind of stuff that I've got a bunch of notes. So I've been struggling with it, trying to figure it out. Sometimes it's called a ZZ structure. And I'm trying to figure out the definitions between, or the difference between a ZZ structure and a xanological structure. It should be right in front of me. There we go. Two of them. Okay. So, who's computer science? Senior year computer? What year are you? Senior? Junior? Sophomore? Sophomore. Okay. This ever comes up? Never, right?
I've never heard about it.
Xanalot. Yeah, it's very strange. So basically, he calls it a literary structure. So it's sort of what we're working with. So to me, TiddlyWiki is a piece of literature in a way. It's a as opposed to a data structure, I guess. But the ZZ structure person says it's a data structure. And he says it's got a symmetrical connective system for text, or tiddlers, with complementary forms of connection that has survivable deep linkage, so back and forth deep link, which we do pretty much with linking to a tiddler name. That's like a deep link. And recognizable visible reuse or transclusion. So it seems to me that that definition is pretty close to what we're doing, but I'm still trying to figure out why it's so important. But I sense that it is. And I think the ZZ structure is also important. I think there's some deep theory work done on databases about how to make ZZ structures more efficient. So that's what I'm playing with over there, but that's what this kind of thing does. So I have a bunch of references. And here's one of them. In this case, I just tagged them to be references on xanological structure because those are the ones I'm interested in. These were really simple. I basically went to Google Scholar and I took MLA form and copy, pasted, and dragged. Copied the MLA Google Scholar and pasted it. And then I exercised some discretion and consistency in this small project. And if you were doing a master's thesis, you're going to use the same references over and over again across your career, which is what scholars do. You might want to have a more systematic way, but I wanted to create tiddler titles that would form the basis of a search. So I just put the last names of the author or authors, the year, and enough of the title so that if I saw it represented, I might have some recollection in my mind of what it's about, or my readers would have some idea of what it might be about. So not the full title, not the the name of the journal or anything, just the sort of the article title or the book title. And if you go to Google Scholar and paste that, you get oftentimes this kind of a result, which is the thing that you're looking for. Okay, it's not in full context. That would be another way to do it, but that's not bad. The advantage of doing that is then I can put that into a query in a macro, and I don't have to put it in I don't have to copy paste the Google Scholar link or any URLs. It's just, it should be good forever, right? If the URL changes, it's none of that should matter, and anybody in the world should be able to find it and be able to use it productively. So that's pretty straightforward. The references, I have no links. I'm trying to keep it really clean. And the key is really using that Google query macro, which you can copy and look at. And it ends there. So this is the whole macro. I guess my question is, looking at that, is that something that you get Or are you comfortable just dragging and dropping and making it work? So if you drag and drop it, make it work, when it doesn't work, you don't know what to do.
I usually drag and drop and then toy around with everything.
And mess with it?
Until
Okay.
I see what changes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the strategy, Ben's right. You know, just play with it and see if you can figure it out. So what we're doing here, for those of you who decide you want to write macros, so here I'm defining a macro called GS for Google Scholar because I'm super lazy and I like short macros because I'm a writer, right? So when I'm writing, I want to write in short code so that it's fast. So it makes, as a teacher, it's not so good because if my students copy my macros, my readers copy my macros, they have no idea what GS means. So it's a bit of a, you know, but for you as a writer, most of the macros are for you, not for your readers. So the name of the macro and an open and closed parentheses. Inside the parentheses, I put a parameter that's going to get passed with the macro. So I'm going to say GS. If you put the first thing in quotes, that's the first parameter passed, and that's going to be called the variable query. So down here, I just practice with the title of one of my references. I say GS quote, all those titles of my tiddler, close a quote, and then it should generate this, which it does. Okay, so what happens is if you know HTML at all, for how to write HTML links. If you don't, this is an introduction, but here we're hard coding a link using the ahref command. And so we reference to a page that's got the value of that parameter, and that's what's really interesting. Some of you know HTML, and now what we're doing is we're scripting into or transcoding into HTML. So it can appear different places. The same HTML code can do different things in different places. Okay, so if you think about what we're doing is we're abstracting into our HTML code. So the HTML code doesn't have fixed data. It's got variable data that's dependent on when it's called. That's a pretty cool way to write HTML pages. You could use this to generate a whole series of HTML pages and sites if you wanted to. So it just sets an href to whatever my value is, which is set up here. Make sure you set the target to blank. That's how you get it to open in a new tab. That's HTML code. The text of the link, and then you close the link. If I wanted this to have an exclamation point, I could change it there. So you begin to see how it does. So again, you don't need to see that, but it's a useful thing. If you wanted to follow this approach for references, you can just drag that macro. So that's the whole way I'm doing the references. A bunch of you started working with annotations, and mostly I wanted you in that first exercise just to get used to the idea that you might write some commentary about something next to it, adjacent to it, or inside of it. Okay. Some of you, I don't remember who, I don't know. Some of you were working on inside the paragraphs themselves and highlighting words with double brackets that you thought were relevant to look up as a form of annotation. Most of you chose to do the new here and created a new note sort of attached to a paragraph. And so either way, but the idea is in the exercises, you might, as you're doing readings, take notes and annotations, keep them all in your wiki, and then as you write from your annotations and form a text about that. And so I don't have any annotations in this example, but we'll go look at that. And then the documentation, so this macro, very similar to the other one. It's got a name, show. It passes a variable that we're going to call text. And this is called show notes macro. And this is kind of being used as an if statement. So it asks to list all of the tiddlers whose title is show notes macro, that's this one, and who has the field called docs set to the value of yes. Okay, at the moment it's set to the value of no, in which case nothing happens. If it's set to yes, then use the class, CSS class called yellow highlight, print the contents of the field text and close the class, and then go on. This, I think you've seen checkbox tiddler before. Checkbox, this is like native to TiddlyWiki, so it's kind of built in there. And this allows you to create this little checkbox here and change the value of the field. If it's checked, if this checkbox is checked, the value is yes. If it's unchecked, the value is no. So we can't change a tiddler that's open, but we can see if we check it, it changes the status to yes and no. So if you think about it, it's kind of like an if-then. And then I'm using it to, in my home tiddler, I'm going to hide these, to turn on and off my highlighted comments. So there's all sorts of uses for this logic, but what you're doing is you're creating a little flag and turning it on or off by storing the value in a tiddler, yes or no, or in this case in a field, yes or no, turning it on or off, and then affecting the contents, how the entire wiki is being displayed. To get it up in that part, so you need the show notes macro. That's not right. That doesn't take you anywhere. It's called show notes macros, the name of the tiddler. That's the one you have to drag over. Sorry about that. I'll fix that in the next version. You have to go to this tiddler, and you've got this tiddler in every wiki. And if you look at it, it looks an awful lot like what's up here. Okay, everything's in a tiddler. Everything in a TiddlyWiki is in a tiddler. There's nothing else other than what's in a tiddler. So the logic should tell you it's got to be in there somewhere, so you can search for it and you'd find it. It's called $core/UI/top-bar/menu. It's editable. It looks a little scary, but like, oh, well, what happens if I take that out and save it? The link to the Google group disappears. Okay. So over here, I want to, because it's one of those dollar signs, you have to search for it. It's a little tricky to find. It's either a system or a shadow tiddler. In this case, it's a shadow tiddler. And I can put this little piece of code inside the top bar menu so it sits there. So you can begin to mess with the top bar menu, and if you look at this, you'd probably guess it's tagged $:/tag/top right bar. And you'd be right if you guessed that you could add a tag called top left bar and have the menu appear on the left instead of the right. In fact, actually, it's appearing in both right now. Okay. So that's useful additional as you begin to think about how you make the wiki show up the way you want it to look. Very earliest ways, we're messing with the top bar menu. And the other thing I wanted to show you was if you wanted to hide the sidebar. God, I just made all sorts of mistakes. That needed 2 brackets there. And the way drag these two tiddlers to your wiki and set the value of that tiddler to yes. Okay. So if we go, let's see if do we have hide sidebar? So this is set to yes. So when I reload this, the sidebar opens up as hidden. So I forgot that this was live and I saved my menu on both sides. What was that called? Top bar menu. I'll take it off the left, keep it on the right. There it works. Okay. So I think that was the gist of what I wanted to cover. So you should have a set of tools now that will help you figure out how to do the presentation, the actual finished presentation, and then the exercise that this is associated with is 404. And so we'll stop there, James. We'll start here.